My sister Jennifer and I grew up in a slightly strict family in the suburbs. Even though our parents were strict with us, they were not controlling. They would usually consider our opinions and likes and dislikes before making any decision. They had some basic rules, and if we would follow them, we were good to go. Overall, I had a good childhood. I got along well with my parents, but my sister had a very difficult time getting on the same page as them. She was rebellious and refused to listen to anything our parents had to say. She would always do things she was not supposed to do, and not do things she was supposed to do. She would stay out till late, drink with her friends, and go to parties. No matter what my parents did to stop her, she would always find a way to sneak out and do what she wanted. She was also very rude and disrespectful towards our parents and me. Once, when I tried to stop her from going out with a boy, she pushed me down the stairs and I fractured my arm. She laughed and left me there on the floor without even bothering to call the ambulance or our parents. I had to call my parents and tell them what happened. After I called them, my parents rushed home and took me to the hospital. When we came back from the hospital, we saw my sister and the boy sitting on the couch and watching TV. There were many other such incidents where she would push me or kitch, or sometimes even slap me. After my sister graduated from high school, she did not want to go to college. Instead, she wanted to move in with her boyfriend at that time. My parents tried to convince her to not do something stupid, but like every time, she did exactly what my parents told her not to do. She told my parents that she was going to take her college fund that was started by our grandfather and use it to rent an apartment with her boyfriend. She was so persistent that she threatened my parents to take the matter to court if that was what it would take to get her college fund. My parents gave in, but they made her sign a contract. According to the contract, after she gets her college fund, she would no longer be a part of our family. She would be gone and never return back ever again. She did not mind signing such an agreement. After she signed the agreement, she took her money from her college fund and left home. After my sister left, my parents were devastated. For a few weeks they were sad, but one day they decided that we were all supposed to act as if my sister did not even exist. Even if she did exist, she was a stranger to us. My parents removed our old family portrait and all the other pictures that had my sister and replaced them with the ones without her. They turned her room into an office room / study and threw or donated out all of her things that she had left behind. They renewed the whole house, and by the end of it, it almost looked like I was the single child of my parents. After I graduated from high school, I went off to law school and became a lawyer. My parents, like any other parents, were really proud of me. Even though it had been a long time since my sister left home, every time I would try to bring it up, my parents would quickly brush it off and start talking about something else. No matter how many times I tried, they refused to acknowledge that my sister even existed. This continued until one day my sister showed up while we were having our family dinner. Every Saturday we have a family dinner if it is possible. We were all seated in my parents' living room when the doorbell suddenly rang. When I opened the front door, I was shocked. My sister was standing there with a little kid. I asked her what she was doing at my parents' house. She rudely pushed me and said what she was doing at her own parents' house was none of my business. I reminded her of the agreement she signed before leaving home and laughed, saying that it was funny that she called my parents as her. Since I did not go back in for a long time, my parents came out to check what was happening. They were shocked to see my sister there. I tried to stop her, but she pushed me away and entered the house with a little kid. She passed my parents and sat down on the couch in the living room. We all were shocked and surprised. We went to the living room as well. As soon as my parents sat down, my sister started speaking. "This is my kid. I did not want to have her, but her father said that he wanted her. But after seeing her, he changed his mind. You can have her. I heard my little sister is a lawyer. She can handle all the procedures. I will send her all the papers." My parents were furious and told her that she had no right to come in here and asked them to take care of her child. Just like before, she refused to listen to anything my parents had to say to her. She said that she was dating a new guy and he did not like kids at all. She did not want to upset him, so she decided to give her up. I could not believe my sister could be heartless. She was telling everyone that she did not want her child in front of her child. I could not even imagine the kind of treatment the child might have received. My parents kept on arguing with my sister, but I noticed that the child was very scared. I felt bad, so I yelled at everyone to stop and said that I would take care of Emily in the future. My sister agreed and left, leaving Emily with us. My parents disagreed. They scolded me for being impulsive and adopting a child who I didn't even know about. They told me that I was being careless by adopting a child when I knew nothing about parenting or taking care of a child. I explained to them that parents learn to become parents only after having a child. I was no different here. I also told them that if we would have refused to keep the child, my sister would have probably left her in front of some orphanage. My sister was the bad person here. The child did nothing wrong. There was no need for her to not receive love just because her parents did not care for her. They understood at last and decided to help me to look after Emily when I would go to work. I could not be more thankful. Emily is such a sweet little girl. After I took her home, I slowly told her that I was going to be her new mother. She's 4 years old. Unlike many other kids that I have seen, she did not throw tantrums or demand for anything. She was happy with whatever was given to her. I've never seen such a calm 4-year-old before. She is really very kind and caring. Even though she was hesitant around me and my parents for the first few weeks, now she's absolutely fine. She's wonderful. My parents love her a lot too. Every time she goes over to my parents' place, her grandmother would make her cookies, and she would plant flowers or learn how to read with her grandfather. Sometimes she would also have sleepovers at their place. As for my sister, she gave up on all her parental rights and gave them to me. So, now I am Emily's official parent. Even though I told her that she could visit Emily anytime she wanted, she refused, saying that she would never want to meet her. A few days ago, my sister got married. She did not invite any of us. I came to know about it through her Facebook post. I didn't know much about the guy except that he did not work and lived on his parents' money. I told my parents, but they just ignored it like always and said that she was no one to us. As for Emily, she has recently joined kindergarten a few days ago. Because she is shy, she was only able to make 2 friends yet. I did not want to push her to socialize too much, so I told her that sometimes having few friends is better than having many friends. Quality over quantity. She has become more open and a bit less shy around me and my parents now, and I am happy to see her smiling. I have been dating a guy, Ben, for quite some time now. A few days ago, I decided to introduce him to Emily. At first, I was afraid that Emily might get shy and overwhelmed, but clearly I was overthinking. She was really amazing. She handled the situation way better than I expected her to. Even though she did not talk much, Ben and she hit it off really well. She later told me that Ben seemed like a nice guy. After a few days, I met my sister and she told me that she got divorced. She said that she wanted to meet Emily. I told her that I would let her know after I talked to Emily. I asked Emily if she wanted to meet her birth mother, but she refused. When I told my sister that Emily refused to meet her, she started creating a scene and did not leave until I told her that I would sue her for child neglect if she would not leave. No, you are not the a-hole for not letting your sister meet her daughter. Your sister had made it clear that she did not wish to have the baby. She also made it clear that she did not want to have any relation with Emily. She also gave you all the parental rights, so she had no right to barge into Emily's life whenever she wanted. Also, Emily was the one who did not want to meet her. You were just looking out for Emily. You did nothing wrong. No, you are not the a-hole here. You're just being a good mother to Emily by respecting her choices. Your sister is no more Emily's mother, you are. At first she neglected Emily and left her with you for some guy, and now she wants to meet her. Just because she gave birth to Emily, she cannot walk in and out of her life anytime she wants. She has no right to get angry and create a scene, when she was the one who left her 4-year-old daughter all alone. I hope Emily will have a better life in the future. In my family, I am the only one close to financially stable. My parents earned enough to have a middle-class income, but my mom was a big shopper, and my dad would blow his money at the casino. Now my parents are at an age where they can no longer work. They mainly live off my mom's pension, and the money I give them every month to support them. My brother went into dance after college, and his job after school was working as a retail associate at a luxury store. But he also has the same problem with his money, where all his money he spends on clothes, night outs. My brother married this guy who is 20 years older than him. Brother is 26. This guy is in his late 40s. Initially, This guy framed himself as the rich older guy, but that isn't the case. Here's the thing. They are now asking everyone to donate them money so they can pay for a surrogate in Mexico. First of all, I find this whole thing skeevy as hell with this poor woman from Mexico. But financially, these guys are going on trips left and right. They constantly lease and swap out cars. So when they asked me for money, I told them no. They tried to guilt me, and I said no, not at all. Then I get a call from my mom about taking a home equity line of credit, and I was like, absolutely not. I told my mom, these guys, if they care about this so much, they can save up for it. And I forbid her to give money to my brother and his partner. She's like, okay, then I'll give a little bit. I tell her no. I tell her I am the one that pays their bills. If I find out that they gave a cent, I am going to cut them off as well. When my brother and his partner found out about this, they were very upset with me, and I told them I don't care. They are now calling me homophobic, etc., and that I am ruining their happy life. I told them I don't care. They can start saving money themselves, but I am not going to spend a cent of my money to finance their lifestyle. Not the a-hole. However, to counter the homophobia concerns, instead of saying their lifestyle, say, I support you having a child, but I am uncomfortable with donating money when I see how much money you have already for trips and cars. And I personally am morally opposed to international surrogacy, considering how many children in the foster system need loving parents like you. Make it really clear you want them to be parents. You don't care that they are gay, but your issue is surrogacy and their spending. To really drive it home, start to reply every time they ask with, I'm still uncomfortable with surrogacy and I'd rather my money go to those in true need. So I'm donating to LGBTQ adopters in this county instead, or something if you can do so. As soon as you say lifestyle, they're hearing all the people who use that word as code for being gay. Not the a-hole. There are more red flags in this than a factory, and you should absolutely not support it in any way, shape, or form. It is very likely illegal, almost definitely financially disastrous, and I can almost guarantee that if you give them as little as a penny for this, they will find their way in to drain your bank accounts dry. They want to have their cake and eat it too, to place the financial burden of this nonsense onto you so they don't have to change their lifestyles in any way. Hold firm to your line, and if anybody asks, just be honest. I cannot and will not be financially responsible for their child, especially when they could afford it if they were to stop spending so frivolously. And when mom gives them money or asks you again, and I am almost certain she will, do exactly what you said you would and cut them off. You are being incredibly generous with them, and they need to understand you are not an ATM to be withdrawing money from whenever they please. Absolutely not the a-hole, and you're totally correct. They should cut down their lavish spending if they want a child that bad. The whole thing sounds extremely sketchy as well. And as far as your parents go, they can't even afford their own bills, so anything they spend to them eventually comes out of your pocket for what they can't pay of their own bills. My sister-in-law notoriously crosses boundaries when it comes to her dog. Last year on Thanksgiving, at my house, she brought her dog with her and proceeded to sit with the dog on the lap all through dinner, feeding the dog table scraps, which included her just taking chunks of the turkey and giving it directly to her dog, or taking scoops of the potatoes and letting her dog eat it directly off the spoon. Whenever she would stop feeding the dog for 0.2 seconds, the dog was trying to take from other people's plates. I don't care how much you love dogs. This is absolutely repulsive and disgusting behavior. After speaking to my husband about it, I made it clear she would not be welcome back in my home if she brought the dog with her. My husband agreed to this, and we both talked to his sister about her dog not being allowed back in our home because the dinner table behavior was rude, inappropriate, and soured everyone's appetite. She was letting the dog lick her fingers and then proceeded to grab more food by hand without washing them, which means she was touching food with dog slobber fingers and expecting people to eat it. She said she understood but felt we were being a bit ignorant and tried telling us that we had a dog phobia, but she would respect our wishes and not bring the animal to our house, despite the fact that I need her for emotional support. Fast forward to today. We had a family dinner planned for months and reminded his sister not to bring her dog at least twice. She showed up here 45 minutes ago and lo and behold, she had the dog with her. I told her she wasn't welcome inside and she immediately started flipping out with the, "You can't be effing serious right now. I drove 3 hours to get here." I reminded her that we had told her several times the dog was not welcome, and she went off again stating we couldn't have expected her to leave her baby at home 3 hours away. I stood firm and just closed the door because I wasn't about to argue or let her push my boundaries. Mother-in-law is pissed, however, because she doesn't get to see her daughter often, and we should have just sucked it up this one time so she could see her kid. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. I have a dog, and I find your sister-in-law's behavior gross. I give my dog table scraps from time to time, but only when I'm done eating and only in her food bowl. I wouldn't touch my own food with dog slobber on my hands, much less food shared with others. I take my dog almost everywhere with me, but only where she is welcome. I would never presume to bring my dog to someone's home, and I always ask in advance. Doggy daycare exists. Your sister-in-law obviously thought she could overstep your boundaries yet again. If you let her in with a dog this time, you would have never been able to keep that dog away again. Not the a-hole, at all. Just for a second, let's pretend the sister-in-law taken her dog and sat the dog in her lap at the dinner table, and the dog, and been well trained, and sister-in-law had not touched all the damn food on the table with the dog slobbered hands. Let's pretend that sister-in-law didn't feed the dog on her lap. Okay, maybe I could have been able to deal with that, but come on, in what reality would anyone be okay with a guest reaching over and pulling a piece of turkey off the main serving tray with their bare hands that had already been slobbered on repeatedly, and then doing this disgusting act over and over? Sister-in-law is delusional. Not the a-hole. Being repulsed by her lack of hygiene and sanitation is a perfectly natural response to dog slobber contaminating the food and serving utensils. Compound that with her prioritizing spoiling her dog with someone else's resources and fixating her attention on it rather than being a good guest to both the other guests and the host. I would have never invited her back at all. No caveat about the dog required. If she needs an emotional support animal to be able to engage with her own family, she should go no contact. Dog phobia? How far up her own wazoo did she have to dig to find that nonsense?